Hi everybody, this is Nick and Dave. Welcome to the observatory. Um, we're back. We're back. One day late, but we're here. Sometimes things come up, and you have to be flexible and adapt. So that's good. We're back. One day late. My name is Nick. Like I said, I'm a content strategist here at Britain Marketing and Design Group. Two things that I'm going to work on today from feedback. Feedback is always good. We want to grow and everything. I'm going to work a little bit on my posture, and I'm going to try to speak a little bit louder here. Dave, this is Dave, by the way. His name is Dave B. Good. He's our digital strategist here. He is the person that steers kind of our analytical assessments, our reporting, and our adaptive strategies for all of our digital properties. And Dave has been on radio for a long time, so he has a really good, strong radio voice as well. So
Hi.
Just
kidding.
So there it is. Welcome to Britain Marketing and Design Group. We are a creative design agency. We focus on brand-centered content creation. Clients are color-trended, consumer goods, fashion, retail, all that good stuff. So this is the 7th session of the content exploration series. Today we're going to talk about content optimization, and we hope that these little sessions are informative, collaborative, that you have some takeaways, some tools, some tips, and so forth. Hopefully helpful stuff. And for those of you here and for those of you online, we are live streaming on Facebook and Periscope. We are in the observatory here at Britain Marketing and Design Group, which is our content creation studio. It's our real-time listening and monitoring hub, our creative collaborative space. It's our command center that we use for our digital communication and content creation. So welcome to the observatory. Quick note about notes. We love repurposing content here. We create a monthly feature called a design feature where we create desktop wallpapers or calendars. This month was created by our associate creative director Ringo Santiago, which is all about beaches and neon colors, and it's really striking and everything. You can go ahead and go to bmdg.us /sketch-pad7 if you want to go ahead and download our sketch notepad that we created specifically for these content exploration sessions for you to take notes and things like that. So we love note taking, so hopefully you do as well. That's one of the resources that you can access here at the end of the live stream or right now. If you want to participate, like I said, we're live streaming this on Facebook Live. We're doing Periscope, and our main stream is through our YouTube event. So if you have questions or anything, please reach out to us. Use hashtag Great Britain or tweet us or whatever, however your form of communication is. Just reach out to us and we'll try to answer any type of questions or comments that you might have. So, all right. So hopefully this session here will be a little bit more inspirational than a inspirational quote. We don't necessarily always think that inspirational quotes are that inspiring, but we're going to try to at least inspire you to look at your social media sharing process and your writing for web and email and all of your content marketing writing, to hopefully take a look at it and use some of the best practices that we use and we've gathered. So this is kind of our second panel here, small panel, just me and Dave today. So we're going to try to give you a quick broad view of content optimization and best practices that we use for writing for web and social and email and so forth. So that's what we're going to try to accomplish today in a very short window of time, because we could talk about best practices for a long time. So today's topics are best practices in general, writing for web pages, writing for email, writing for social, channel-specific tips, and optimization, and we'll cover some tools and that good stuff as well. And this is really going to be the Dave show today. He does a lot of our research. He does a lot of he reads a lot about secondary data and things that are out there. So he has compiled a really great a resource for us that has best practices for pretty much any channel that we publish any content on. But before we delve deeper into that, we use something called the content cartography. That's our content strategy approach that we do. It allows us to optimize and be efficient around content aggregation, the editorial process, content creation, and sharing, curation. It really lets us plan and create engaging, purposeful content that is channel agnostic, catering to whatever channel we're using, their specific user experience and user interface, while also being super and hyper searchable. That's kind of our deal. We really think there is a science to content creation and content marketing. We believe that the function drives the people to the content and that the form keeps them coming back. They're interrelated and must be prioritized and combined in order to kind of maximize that reach. So that's what content cartography is all about, and that's what we're going to really kind of delve into here in a couple of minutes. So when it comes to optimization and best practices, where do you even start? Well, we always start with secondary data and industry research. There's so much data and trials and case studies out there that will help you start to enforce kind of your own rules and frameworks and everything for your content creation, for whatever channels you're using for your content marketing strategy. Then of course you have to merge that with the primary data, which is the data that you have from your channels that you're currently using. So we take the secondary data, merge it with the primary data, and come up with all of our content recommendations from that point of view. So we're going to go ahead and talk quickly about writing for the web. One of the things that we always got to realize is that websites are living, breathing things, and you really have to have a purpose for each page or each piece of content that you create, because otherwise, why do you really need it? We use a core model workshop to merge business objectives with user wants and needs, which really helps us kind of hone in on some of those needs and some of those purposes. Why are we creating this page? Why are we doing this? So there's a lot of tools and workshops and things like that that you can use out there to really help steer your content from a website perspective. Now, from a main content creation perspective, writing for the web is really writing for two different audiences. In one side you have the human, and the other side you have the search engine, and the bots and whatnot, the algorithm. For us, when it comes to writing for humans, it's about writing content that engages and resonates with your audience. Content that makes them come back, that's a resource for them, that's useful and inspiring in a lot of cases. And then you have the search engines. So you have to really make sure that not only are you writing for your audience, but you also have to write for the search engines. You have to make sure that you optimize your content for those 5 major ranking factor buckets. The content, the technology, the backlinks, the social links, and the user experience signals. So in order for you to get your great content to be seen, you have to make sure that you write it for the search engine as well, because otherwise you won't show up at the top in the search engine result page rankings. So we always look at it from a two audience standpoint when it comes to creating any kind of piece of content on the web. Now we go even deeper than that, and we look at all of the different pages and look at readability cues and scores and so forth to present our great engaging content in its optimal form. So we look at paragraphs versus sentence lengths. We look at images and alt text and how to optimize them. We look at what styling is preferred, bulleting, list, italics, all that good stuff. How are we using adverbs, passive versus active voice? What does the typography look like? Headings, heading 1s, heading 2s, heading 3s, and so forth. Are we leading with an inverted pyramid approach so that we have your answer at the top, and then you kind of uncover more as you read more for it. So It's all about writing for skimmers and scanners to really make sure that they get what they want when they need it. And then we're going to move on. We're going to move forward here to writing for email. So the way we look at writing for email is, and this is the funny part about it, because we feel that email is when used properly, it's a very effective means of sharing your brand voice and sharing your brand messaging and everything. But the channel, the medium has been around for so long, so from that perspective, it's a medium that hasn't changed very much in the last 20-25 years. It's pretty much the same. Sure, capabilities are and features are improving and so forth, but that's why we think that email is one of those channels that you can really figure out the best practices and get that optimal reach. We live by the 7-second rule, which is you have about 1-2 seconds to sway someone with your subject line, and then you have another 4 to 5 seconds to engage them with your intro copy or whatnot. So that's kind of how we really write towards email. You really have to front load everything to make sure that you capture their attention right away. Other things that we think about is, obviously in this day and age, is the whole mobile design versus desktop. Nowadays, you have to realize that over 50% of the email audience and emails are pretty much being opened on mobile platforms. So you have to make sure that your content is accessible on mobile platforms. And then we go into more of the technical stuff, talking about live text, the importance of live text, the importance of optimizing images, making your content and having really targeted CTAs, and make sure that you also have purposeful, unique content in your emails as well. And then, at the end of the day, it's all about testing. So we test, and make sure that what we're doing is resonating with that specific audience that we're targeting. So we test the subject lines, of course, send times, dates, frequencies, that kind of stuff, content, images, absolutely, GIFs versus static, and so forth. So once you get enough of that testing under your belt, you should have you should be able to make some of those actionable assessments and changes to your email writing and email strategy as a whole. So I'm gonna shut up here in a little bit because Dave hasn't had a chance to say anything yet, but
I said hi.
Okay, you said hi, so
Said hi.
that's a start. But when it comes to writing for social media, the one thing that we always talk about is that social media is they're just channels. They're just other channels that you can use to share your content and use for brand messaging. So you really have to be conducive of the user experience for each channel that you use. So, and Dave's gonna talk a little bit more about how you do so, but it's really about using those native features that the channel has to offer in order to cater to the algorithm, but also create a good user experience for your fans. It's less about crafting a perfect tweet, and it's more about choosing the proper content type for that channel and optimizing it so that the most people can see your stuff, basically. And that's kind of what Dave's going to talk about a little bit here, about how do you optimize your writing for social, and what are some of those features. So one more thing here. So this is what we're going to talk about. Usually when we talk about optimizing things for social channels, we look at a couple of different categories of how to use native features properly, and those are usually geared towards how to use images and image tagging. What content type should we use on that specific channel? What other types of tagging can we use, hashtags and so forth? How do we best harness geolocation and tagging and so forth? And then it's the whole organic versus paid, which is kind of a separate conversation. For us, we always lead with organic content, and we use paid media to supplement and really supercharge that organic content that we create. But one of the things that's really important when it comes to writing for social media is that you really have to be adaptive, and you have to regularly assess the landscape for each channel that you use, because there are new things popping up on a daily or weekly basis. Facebook reactions, quote tweets, new filters, whatever it might be. So So let's talk about Facebook, Dave.
Facebook is important. People are on Facebook. You should be on Facebook. I think everybody kind of knows that part, but it's not enough to just type stuff and hit post. You got to have some kind of a strategy behind it. You got to know your audience and who you're talking to. You got to follow the same things that you follow with your brand, and know what your audience is, what tone that they speak in, the right context it needs to be in, and you need to make sure that content leads to engagement. It's not enough to just put something on there and hope that somebody likes it or hope that somebody shares it. You need to encourage people to like and share, and it's not necessarily in the terms of saying click like or share this, but you want to make sure that that content is forcing people to be social, because after all, it's social media, right? You want to look at timing, because there are times when your audience is online. They might be online when they first wake up. 6:30 in the morning might not be a time when you would think your audience is on, but the first thing a lot of people do in the morning is they check their Facebook when they wake up before they even jump in the shower. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the times that your audience is online, and then that's when you're posting. And there's a lot of native Facebook insights that will help you determine when your audience is online, what days of the week they're online. You want to make sure that when you're posting, that you're doing it in a human, authentic way. You don't want to be very salesy. You don't want to speak so much in brand talk. You want to be human. Give your brand a personality. And that's something people can relate to. And when you do, you'll see instant response that way. Use video. We've got Facebook Live going on. I am Facebook Live and Periscope as well. But video is such a big push for Facebook right now. They're making sure that those posts rise to the top. If you're on Facebook Live, that's going to be seen right away because they want people to tune in. It's a big priority for Facebook. So if it's a priority for them, if it's something new, they want to be successful with it, they're going to make sure it gets seen. And then another thing you can do, which a lot of people don't realize, especially as a brand, is you can target your posts. You could have a different post for different parts of the country or for different audiences, so that it only gets seen by a certain group. And you can Google how to do it or go to the Facebook help section, and they'll explain how you can specifically target your posts for a certain group of people. If you have something that's sports related, you can target people that follow sports teams. And not everyone will necessarily see that post. If you have something that's medical related, you can target nurses and doctors or people that follow pages that are medical pages. So you can target your posts and make sure that the right people that will react to it will see it. So that's some native features with Facebook.
And the more you target and the more you optimize your content, the greater your already slim organic reach that Facebook allows you to get, the greater that's going to increase, because it's more valid. Because if you target appropriately and if you use all these different best practices, more people or less people might see it, but more people are going to engage with it. And the more people engage with it, the more credence and authority Facebook will give your brand page, correct?
Facebook wants you to have to pay so your posts get seen. But one thing that will always remain constant with Facebook is they want you to engage and be social, because the more that you do that, the longer you're on Facebook, the more ads you see that people are paying for. So they want, and they will always reward organic engagement. So if you can lead your followers to engage with you, you have a better opportunity to be seen.
Absolutely. And we're probably going to go over a little bit today as far as time goes. We're going to try to...
You're going to want to stick around, though. It's good stuff.
Not go over too long, but because we could talk about these native features for each channel for a very long time. But because it's research, it's data, but it's also about creating content that your audience really likes. So there's other things about Facebook like hashtags. If you're a brand page or a company page, please don't use hashtags. Studies show that you get a limited reach when it comes to that. We've also done some content type testing on Facebook, and you would think that leading with photo posts over link posts or status updates would get the best organic reach. But from our own A/B testing and everything, the link post that grabs the metadata and everything gives much more preference from the Facebook algorithm than an actual photo post. So we tweak it and we make sure we test it and follow it. So whenever we see something in a little bit of an increase, we keep testing it and trying to figure out how it is. So that's one of those things where we were doing a lot of testing to figure out how do we best get our organic reach. And obviously people love visuals and whatnot, so we were posting a lot of photo updates, and then we switched back to try a little bit more of a link status updates. And the research showed us that using the native links,
it's constantly changing though. So if you're keeping an eye on your Facebook Insights as a brand, you will see, maybe photos come back and start to see more engagement, or maybe links, or maybe, especially right now, it's video that's seeing a lot of engagement.
Absolutely. Let's pivot. Twitter. Let's
All right.
see Twitter.
So some things to remember on Twitter as far as native features go. Remember to keep your profile up to date and make sure it reflects your brand and image. You want to know that it's a legitimate page, that it's an official account for your brand. You want to know that it is the same tone and what the same things that people can expect from you off of social media they can expect on your Twitter page. And that really goes for all the accounts, all the different platforms, but Twitter especially, you want to make sure that your profile reflects your brand and your image. Another thing to do is have goals. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to get people to your website? Are you trying to get people to retweet and share your posts? Make sure that you're writing to that goal. Are you encouraging people to go read an article on your blog? Are you writing so that they will be curious and then want to go see your blog? Or are you just writing to have breaking news or to tell about a new product? Make sure that you're writing to achieve those goals. Use those insights for Twitter as well, because there's a lot of insights that can provide direction as to what's working and what isn't. They just released a dashboard app, a Twitter dashboard, that even on personal pages you can see some of those insights right on your mobile phone. So when you got a few minutes here and there, you can take a look and see what's getting reach, what isn't getting reach, and then kind of change your strategy based on the research. Use photos and videos on Twitter. They tend to get more reach than just a text post, because you have to make sure that you're getting the attention. People are scrolling on their phone on Twitter, that you're grabbing the attention, because there's so much, it's hard to keep up. And with Twitter, it's still for the most part real time, and so you want to make sure that you're getting the attention when you're trying to reach your audience. Hashtags, while they're not relevant so much on Facebook anymore, they are on Twitter, and it shows that you get better exposure on Twitter. You get bigger reach when you're using hashtags, and it allows people to help find you, or if people are searching on a certain topic, they might search by a hashtag and be able to find similar posts, and they might stumble upon you that way. It's great for discovery. And then of course you want to be responsive. If you're a brand, people want to have a response in less than an hour. The quicker you respond, the better, because they feel important. If you're not responding for a day and a half or 3 days, they feel like they're not being listened to, and they're going to go somewhere else and spend their money elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. The responsiveness and the real-time aspect of Twitter is something that audience is used to. So you have to cater to that specific audience. And once when we're talking about being responsive, as a brand, if you're on Twitter and you're using it for a little bit of customer service, make sure you don't send them to your Facebook page or your email or your customer service center or whatever it is. You're on Twitter as a brand. Try to answer their questions on Twitter, right?
Absolutely.
Keep it on the platform, because if someone reaches out to you on Twitter, that means that they use that platform.
Yeah,
So.
and in many times they're reaching out to either find out more information so they can spend money, or they've already spent money and they're not receiving the experience they want. So it's an opportunity to salvage that relationship.
Yeah, and Twitter is making a lot of new feature changes and everything, polls and whatnot. But there's really a lot of ways to get really good organic reach on Twitter using images, tagging images. I mean, you can put up to 4 images per tweet, and for each image you can tag 10 people. So you could potentially write a tweet that has tagged 40 people with 4 images and use 2 hashtags, and so you can get a tremendous amount of organic reach and awareness just by one single tweet. So. So. We're yay Twitter over here, even though Twitter is not doing the greatest. We can say that, and that's okay. We're pro Twitter. So.
All right, Instagram. Instagram is another case where you want to have a creative and descriptive bio, because there are no profiles on Instagram. So it's your opportunity to tell people who you are. It's also the only place where you can have a link on Instagram, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But your profile is really important because as a brand, that's how you're getting across what you are when it's not an image. Now, high quality images on Instagram, obviously it's a visual platform. You don't have to take pictures on your phone. You can take pictures somewhere else. Use a better camera. That's what a lot of the big visual accounts do, is they'll take with a really nice camera and then upload it to Instagram, and you don't know the difference whether it's taken on a phone or not, but it's all about high quality visual images. So take advantage of that. That's the biggest part of the platform. Make sure those images tell a brand story. What are you all about? How can people use your products? Tell about your customers. Help people discover things about you that they didn't know. Maybe show some behind the scenes. Tell your story. That's important. As a marketing company, we are storytellers, and Instagram is a great way to tell a visual story of your brand. Make sure you use hashtags on Instagram as well, because the research shows that hashtags, using multiple hashtags, anywhere from 2 to 5, will give you better reach and create the opportunity for discovery for sure. Again, no clickable link in the posts. So if you put a link in your post or your comments, people can't click on it. But you can tell people to go to your profile, your bio, and include a link there. And that way you can at least take that opportunity to send people to your website, send people to your blog, have people find out more information where they can become a customer or a follower. And then there's a lot of companion apps that come with Instagram as well. There's Hyperlapse, there's Layout, there's Boomerang to create, GIFs, or to create, multi-photo pictures into one image. And if you take advantage of those, you can tell your story in a different way.
Yeah,
it's another way to grab attention in that feed as you're scrolling through.
Yeah, and we all know that Instagram is one of the primary social channels out there, at least for a lot of brands, because it is such a visual platform, and it allows for you to tell really engaging stories. So, again, Instagram is more casual, perhaps. It's more humanizing than some of the other channels out there. It's more about being authentic and transparent. So you see the brands that are doing well are doing great storytelling. They're not pushing product, and that's overall we've seen that on most social channels. But I think it's even more prevalent on a channel like Instagram. So.
All right, LinkedIn has been more of a professional kind of network, just purchased by Microsoft recently, and they're going to find ways to integrate themselves more into that professional office experience. It's a great way to keep those business relationships and stay in people's faces, which is important with those business relationships. You definitely want to keep your profile up to date, because before a big meeting, somebody might check you out and take a look at your profile, see what your background is, and it's important that they know, the experience that you have. It gives you credibility. It makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. Gives people an opportunity to see what you have in common. Common ground is obviously pretty important in a business relationship. So keep those up to date, and take it a little step further. Add volunteer experience and extracurricular activities, committees that you're on. But when you keep it up to date, you have more opportunity to interact with people, especially when you are face-to-face. Make sure that you, when you're sharing content on LinkedIn, you share it in LinkedIn groups. It's an often overlooked feature on LinkedIn. Those are people that are following the same content. So it's kind of a targeted group. If you're talking about social media, for example, you can share your blog post or share your thoughts on the latest news of Microsoft buying LinkedIn in a LinkedIn group that is all about social media. If it's about a medical field, if it's about photography, whatever it is, you can share that, and it's, again, targeted because it's people that are following the similar interest. Don't try to sell stuff on LinkedIn. It's kind of frowned upon. Often you'll get people that follow you and you make that connection, and then within an hour they're sending you a message to try to sell you something. You have to cultivate those relationships. So you don't want to be too salesy. Don't try to sell. You want to build that relationship and build that trust, just like you would in a face-to-face relationship. You can maybe post a little less frequently on LinkedIn than you would, say, on Twitter or on Instagram or Facebook. You can do a couple of updates a day, share articles or share your own blog, but don't go overboard. And then when you're publishing, which is a great feature on LinkedIn where you can publish just like a blog, once or twice a week is really all that you need. And then you can continue to share that and promote it. But people are not on LinkedIn as often generally as they are on Facebook and Twitter, so you don't need to go overboard and take up too much of your time. But it is a great platform to make those relationships. Again, by using your time effectively, you can repurpose content that you've already put on your blog or on Facebook or on Twitter. It doesn't have to be brand new content. This is just a different platform for people to find where you are. So repurpose that content, save yourself some time, and maybe you're finding more professional content to go on LinkedIn than you would, say, on Instagram. And then they have a huge LinkedIn marketing solutions section that has great tips. So find more tips there and see how you can better use the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn is one of those channels that is kind of underrated because it's been seen as the resume for professional people, but it's not as cluttered with brands and things like that. So you can, if you're a brand and if you create content that's engaging to that audience, you can really make a splash, I think.
Yeah, you're not going to find as many likes and shares necessarily, but people could still be reading your content. You can still reach them, and it might be a better targeted audience for your brand.
Pinterest.
Make sure when you're on Pinterest, it's not necessarily for your brand all about just sharing the cute palette project or the thing you want to do in your garden. For your brand, there's a couple things to remember. You want to verify your website because that helps you get analytics, helps you see what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, who you're reaching, which is obviously important to know if you're using Pinterest right. So for your brand, make sure you verify your website. Optimize for mobile, which is, a lot of people are looking at Pinterest while they're waiting in the doctor's office or waiting for work or on their lunch hour. So make sure that you're using 600 pixel wide photos and that you're optimizing at every opportunity for it to be seen on a phone. Use boards so that you're kind of categorizing your content. That way people know what they're going to get. It's not just kind of a hodgepodge, random mess of things you're sharing. And then on each of those boards, you can tell a story. You can tell a story about, summer and fun activities to do in the city you were in, or how your brand is involved, in a certain aspect of your customers' lives and your followers' lives. But telling a story, again, storytelling is key throughout all your marketing. So you can still do that on Pinterest, even though it's a slightly different platform. You can use rich pins, which means it has more information. If you're on Pinterest and you see a recipe and it lists the specific ingredients and there's a little button that says, make this, that's a rich pin. And you can do it with recipes, with do-it-yourself, and there's 5 or 6 different rich pins that give you an opportunity for showing the right kind of information to the people that are interested. And of course you want to make it evergreen because you don't want to say, hey, we've got a big sale coming up next week, because somebody might see it 4 months from now and it's not relevant anymore. You want to find evergreen content that can be seen all of the time on Pinterest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, last but not least, we have Snapchat, and not the last channel that we use, but we try to cram in as much and choose, carefully select what channels to talk about today. And this final one, we're going to talk about Snapchat, which is probably one of Dave's favorites here. So,
Snapchat is, you've probably heard of and maybe haven't used, especially for your brand, but it's one of those that is growing like crazy. It's going to be on that level where it's going to compete with Facebook and Instagram, and it's been kind of got that rep that a lot of younger people use it, which is true, but that 25 to 54 is flocking to it like crazy. The older demographics want to see, one, what their kids are doing, but two, that's where people are going. It's a different way of communicating, whether people are using it for messaging each other or to tell a story. And they have a 24-hour story feature, which we'll talk about in a minute, and that is a great opportunity to tell your brand story. But there's a lot of cool things on Snapchat that you don't have as, although the other platforms and channels are trying to copy. Snapchat does really well using filters, using stickers. They have a new feature called Bitmoji, which is basically your own personal sticker that looks like you, which is really cool. And use those. You can use those to better tell your story, but you don't want to overuse them so they're a distraction. But it's kind of the native features of Snapchat, which can be really fun to use. Make sure, again, you have that consistent brand message, just like you would on Facebook, just like you would on your own website. Continue to have the same tone, the same authenticity. Speak the same language as you are on Snapchat as you would on the other channels. Make sure you plan out your story, because and now they just added a feature called Memories, where you can use older material, something you took a picture of last week or a month ago, but to tell your story in real time gives even a little bit more credibility to your brand. So you want to plan that out, know what you're going to do next. Use color. You can draw literally on the picture and add color to enhance the text that's on your picture, or to put an arrow to something that you want to make sure that your followers see. It's an opportunity to make things stand out. You want to make sure that you prompt them. If there's an action, it's a little less, it's not like you're liking a picture on Snapchat. So if you want them to go to a link, you want to tell them, hey, this next picture that we're going to show you, there's a link on there. Take a screenshot of it and then go to that link later. So you want to prompt them for action. You want to promote other channels on Snapchat. It's really good to say, hey, I just posted this brand new YouTube video. You should go check it out, and to direct people to your other channels where they might be able to spend some more time. There's geo filters, which is kind of a image that you can put over your picture that is specific to a geolocation. So if we had one for the observatory, you'd be able to swipe it, put it over the observatory if we took a picture here. But that might be something different than if you went downtown and saw a different filter. You can use them for events, you can use them for your business, you can use them if you're a speaker somewhere. It's an opportunity, again, to create a different experience for your followers. And then you want to definitely find alternatives to paid advertising when it comes to Snapchat, unless you're a major brand, because advertising packages on Snapchat start at $100,000. So most people don't have an extra $100,000 laying around, but in many cases it's upwards of $750,000. So you want to find ways to promote your Snapchat and to tell your story in an organic fashion. And if you follow some of the other brands that are on there and follow some of the creative people, you'll see some success there.
Yeah, absolutely. Snapchat's growing and getting more popular, and we'll keep taking a look at all these different channels. Obviously today we didn't have time to cover that many other ones, but there's tons of them that we use: Tumblr, Spotify, Medium, SoundCloud, whatever it might be. So I think this is good for today. Tools, resources, and platforms. Some of the things that we use to create content and make sure that we use these native features are Grammarly, Hemingway, great for readability purposes and writing. We use a large number of different Chrome extensions. We use gather content for a lot of our structured content that we create. Sprout Social is a tool that we use for a lot of our social media management, and so on and so forth. So just make sure that you use the tools that are appropriate for you. Sometimes we see brands, smaller brands perhaps, using an enterprise model of a platform when they really necessarily don't need that kind of high price solution. So test and find out what works for you and for your business. We've seen that there's not really a mega tool out there that can do everything, so you have to see if you can and find platforms that work for your workflow and processes and things like that. And hopefully they have an API so you can connect them, but that's a different story. So today we talked about best practices, which is all about creating frameworks for consistent and successful content sharing. Writing for the web, which is all about readability and creating content for humans and search engines. Writing for email, we talked about the 7-second rule. Again, email is one of those channels that's been around for so long and hasn't changed that much. So if you're a brand, the best practices, everything is out there. Just go harness it, do it properly, and get that ROI. Writing for social media, it's complex because every social channel has their own native features and everything. It's detailed and it's ever changing, so just keep the pulse on what's changing and so forth. And then we have all those channel specific tips that Dave kind of talked about today. So our next session will be about content outreach and engagement. It will be on August 31st, I do believe, which is the last Wednesday of the month, which today is not Wednesday, but we had a thing, so we had to change it. So next session, I think we might have someone else up here on the panel. So we had Meg last time and Dave here today. I'm going to try to get Devin or maybe Ashley to join us next session. So we'll see. We'll see if I can wrangle them. And again, content exploration sessions will run through all of 2016, and we're going to talk about content outreach and engagement. We are about 10-12 minutes over, so if you have questions, we'll get to them right after this live stream here, because we got to sign off. We got to sign off and get back to work and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for tuning in. The last thing, if you're interested in all these resources and things that we talked about today, or if you want to rewatch the live stream, you can go to bmdg.us /content-exploration-session-7, long one, or you can just find us on any of these social channels we've talked about today, and you'll find a link to this landing page here that has all these different resources and more. So that's it for us. Thank you very much. We appreciate that you tuned in, and we hope to see you late August, right?
Yes.
Thank you very
31st.
much for sitting in here, Dave. Really a lot of useful stuff. So thank you all. Have a good day.